crimes, Mark? Yes, what are your crimes, Mark? Did you beat your wife? Did you kick a pup? We'll find your crimes and rake it up. Did you laugh at Hubbard? That's not nice, and now you'll have to pay your price. So what are your crimes, Mark? What have you done? Oh, it's too late now. Fair game's begun.
Welcome back to Xenu TV. We're here in the intergalactic headquarters of this fantastic broadcasting empire, zooming throughout the entire sector of the galaxy and coming right into your noggin. I hope you enjoy what we have for tonight. We've got a couple of vintage interviews, one that I conducted back in 2011, and one that you may have never seen before, from the 1990s with Frank Oliver, who had been an OSA agent. And their stories kind of intersect. And we'll get into that in just a little bit. But hey, why don't I say hi to all the folks who are here? Let me take a look at the comments here. Well, first in the scene, first in the door here, Bridge 1872. Hello to you, Lupita, of course, right here. Nice to see you, Lupita. Tony Hoban. Hiya, Mark. Hiya to you. And the little one. And whatever is on the shirt there. Is that a kitty? I can't tell. Let's see. Lupita's waving hi to Kelly. Jelly. Kelly. There we go. That was a typo. Not a slur, Kelly. Relax. Not a slur. SP Danny is here to kind of break up any fights that might, happen over unintended slurs. Welcome to you. Kelly sometimes feels like a little jelly, don't we all? And Kelly, of course, acknowledging that I do love my typos. Yep. They are tons of fun. So, all you folks who are here with us already, welcome to you. I had a nice time chatting last night with yes, Mr. Gibbs. Brooks Gibbs, thank you. Man, this is how tired I am. It was a really nice chance to sit down with him and talk a little bit about his life and what he's been up to and all the stuff that he has planned for the city in the future. Ricky Glazer is here to slap me silly if I don't wake up. So let's talk a little bit about the Office of Special Affairs. I got to know Mike Rinder when he was in Scientology. He was trying to destroy our lives. He had people following us all around for the Lisa McPherson Trust. He was trying to have us arrested. I have videotape of that. And then when he left Scientology, we became friends. And he was terrific to me, helping me out in my campaign for office and coming to talk to our city manager and city attorney to fill these new members in on what it's like dealing directly with David Miscavige. But I also know a lot of people who were targeted by OSA during the Mike Rinder years, including Bob Minton, who had a global campaign run against him. Bob was the fellow who got me started in this whole thing by giving me a camera and the ability to travel to places like Clearwater to shoot video on Scientology. And they tried so hard to destroy him for years and years and years. And eventually they managed to freeze his money, and he had to cry uncle. And he and Stacy Brooks settled with Scientology and said, "Okay, uncle, we won't talk about Scientology anymore," even though Bob was continued to be obsessed about it and was on alt religion Scientology every day, reading everything, but not commenting. But after Mike left, I kind of got Mike and Bob back together again, because Bob did feel that they formed some sort of friendship over the ordeal. Miscavige was really brutal on Bob, and Render actually kind of tried to make it, ease the way there, and try to stop some of the most horrific things that Slappy wanted done. So you can come out the other side. You can be enemies one day and then friends the next. Okay, may not be the next day, but it is possible over time to turn things around. And that's I think what I hope you'll take away from tonight. I'm going to start by playing this section of an interview I did with Hana Whitfield. She and her husband Jerry, once they left Scientology, and she, by the way, was the captain of one of the ships at the beginning of the Sea Org. She was put in charge, having never, been a mariner. Well, Hubbard said, "Well, you've done it in many past lives," and he kind of walked her through. This is that. This is you'll be fine. Don't worry. You'll remember how you did all of this stuff. And there she was, the captain of a rusty old ship. So when she and her husband Jerry left Scientology, and they started doing exit counseling, and that was the biggest sin possible at the time. And always the charge was somebody like those two would be kidnapping people and deprogramming them, which I don't think they ever did. There was another fellow that was doing deprogramming, grabbing somebody, putting them in a room and keeping them there and trying to talk sense into them. And that was something that was back in the 80s. That was something that was considered okay. There were so many TV shows that went behind the scenes of this, families reaching out to deprogrammers to get their kids back, generally from some cult. I don't think Hana and Jerry had anything to do with that. But even at the Lisa McPherson Trust, they continued to claim that that's what we were doing. We were grabbing people and deprogramming them. We were holding them hostage, and couldn't be further from the truth. But still, they never relented, bringing that up every chance they had. More folks coming by. David Miscavige is here. Thank you. Greetings, Mark, and chat. It is indeed David Miscavige. You can tell just from the picture there. No one else could put David Miscavige's picture up there. It's got to be him. 49ers fan for life says Hana Whitfield had to deal with a lot of fair game. That is absolutely true. Look at all the folks who've come in here since I started yammering away. Boy, it's good that I can waste time like this, so I can go back then and say hello to all the new folks who are here. Like Lara FM, hello to you. Welcome. Nice to see you. Let's see. Jay's here. Bunky, Mad Love, thank you. Let's see. Mad love always comes from somewhere far away. There's never anyone at my door saying, Mark, mad love, let me in. Haggis Basher is here, saying not just hi to me, but hi to Kelly as well. And that's the polite thing to do. You know, Kelly, she's doing all the hard work. All I have to do is push her button and start yammering. She's keeping you all in line. I know. You know, it's not an easy job. I can tell what a group of rapscallions you all are. But she's on top of everything. Professor Kakan is here and can't stop waving. Everybody wave back. Hey, Hun Puds. Yep. Okay. Very nice. Lara says, also Jerry Armstrong got really screwed by Mike Render and still is dealing with it today, every day. That is true. Lots of stuff was not revealed that probably should have been revealed. I feel you do what you can do. And I don't like to put extra pressure on people. Because they're not, you can't bully anybody into doing what you want. Stacia Flones. Hello, Mark Mods in chat. Hello to you. Haggis Basher watched an old show on Jerry recently. How about that? All right. Laura agrees we do what we can do. It's good to try to coax people into doing more, but you can't force them to do it. You gotta, they have to come around to it. Okay, so let's take a listen to Hannah's experiences as she and Jerry were out there, doing their exit counseling. Here we go.
We started being followed by private investigators pretty much everywhere we went. We started noticing the cars behind us. You can pick up. Once you realize that there is surveillance, you get attuned to it very quickly. You can pick it up. And at times there were like 6 and 7 cars, one following us, then he would peel off, another would take his place, and he would peel off, and a third would take his place. And we got fairly good at spotting them. It was a little distressing to me. I didn't like it. And especially getting away on interventions became difficult. But we didn't have any real bad harassment on interventions. The bad harassment started in 1991, which gave us a good run, actually. And we were seeing maybe 6 to 8 families a year, one a month, one or more a month. And most of them were successful. We were doing well, traveling mostly around the United States, I think once to Australia and once to England in that time period. And then in 1991, it got hairy. And I think that if Marty Rathbun and Mike Rinder ever decide to talk about this, they will talk about some of the operations that were launched against us because they were extensive. For example, there was the one case in England in early 1991. We landed in Heathrow, met John Atack, got to our destination in Exmouth, and within a matter of a few hours, John's wife had been called by someone pretending to be Jerry's father trying to contact him. Noella thought about it, but finally gave the old man our telephone number and address. Within 5 hours, we had 5 cars outside our bed and breakfast, parked outside. John noticed them, Jerry noticed them. When we approached, they took off. When we came back in, they came back into position again. We knew there were Scientologists in those cars. We couldn't prove it. Following morning was a Sunday morning, and we didn't know how we were going to get to the family. The following morning, on Sunday morning, 2 policemen appear at the bed and breakfast. One is Inspector Lemon, and the other was Detective somebody or another, I forget his name. And I remember the Lemon because that's, I'd never heard of an inspector called Lemon before. And they came to talk to us because they'd been told we'd kidnapped someone and were holding someone in the bed and breakfast. And so we told them exactly why we were there for. And they went outside, spoke to the surveillance cars, got one guy out of his car by the scruff of his neck against the hedge because he would not give up his driver's license, and said, "Matey, you're in my country now. You're talking with an American accent. If you don't give now, I'll have you deported in 24 hours. Out came the driver's license. And it turned out to be a DB or a DW Cooper, and along with him was Ben Shore, and along with him was, I think, J.J. Gore, and along with him was somebody else. And those 3 or 4 followed us from then on to Australia, to around the States, to you name it. Those 4 kept popping up. We didn't know they were filming us. We checked into a residential inn suite, and these boys were in the suite opposite us, filming us, coming and going, filming us entering the house, and we were just doing a prep at that time, just preparing for everything. One afternoon we were in a restaurant, and a group of policemen walked into the restaurant, and they said, "Do you know by any chance that we've noticed that, see outside there a car in the Kmart parking lot? It was snowing. It's deserted, the parking lot was deserted." But he said, "That car out there, and there's one out back. They've been following you for the last 2 days." We said, "Who are you?" "I'm Police Sergeant so-and-so, and I'm Sergeant so-and-so. I've got their names back there." He said, "These are the cars that have been following you, and these are the occupants of the cars." I said, "Ben Shaw, D.W. Cooper, J.J. Gore. Jerry, those are the guys that followed us to England." We had our phone accounts gotten into over and over and over again, no matter how much we passcoded them. Our bank accounts were gotten into, no matter how many alerts we put on them and how we passworded them with our banks, no matter how much. They were continually gotten into. And I think finally the Scientologists started tailing us through our plane reservations, because by that time they had Scientology travel agents, and so they were able to call up whatever they wanted and track whoever they wanted.
Yes, that was something that always confounded us. Come on. Boom, there I am. How did they know where we were going to be at any given moment? They would be able to track us anywhere in the world. Bob would get off a plane, whether it was in Europe or here in the States, and there'd be Scientologists waiting for him in the airport to harass him. And what was Mary Jane's said, "I remember watching this years ago. I still don't get why Marty did what he did, but I guess I get it." You mean going back into Scientology? It is a shame because he's, they were on the verge of winning a major victory. They had such a crack legal team, and could really have made a difference. But for whatever reason, and I guess they got a nice settlement, although I don't know all the details about it. They fired the attorneys, and then Marty started videos attacking everybody else who had befriended him during those years where he was out. He was so close to making a difference. He did make a difference, just not the huge difference he should have. But during that period, there was a whole lot of people that were in Scientology that went, what? Marty is out and Mike Render's out? So people who may not have looked at stuff on the internet before that then did and started to go out and meet with Marty, especially at his home. Marty never really left Scientology, though. He left Miscavology. Well, David would have more to say about that, I'm sure. But yeah, he still believed in the tech. Sometimes it takes a long time to get all that stuff out of your system. Sometimes you never do. You think it works, it works. What we have a comment up here from Rookie Glazer saying the Cairo speech was great. Thanks for the video. You are welcome, and thanks to the anonymous folks who got that whole event to me so that we could share it with Tony Ortega and the world. It's very interesting to hear. I was not familiar with Cairo before hearing this speech from him. And then I went back and saw, oh, this guy's got a huge following. And what a massive audience he could bring with him. And yet still, the org is not booming. He may have millions of followers on his skateboard channel, but I don't think it's turned into millions of new Scientologists. But it's very, very interesting to see. Geez, I didn't realize they are still doing hate websites. I don't know how often they put up new stuff, but I do know that all the sites that were up there are still up. I did see one that mentioned me in passing. They don't have one about me anymore. They put one up briefly when I first started shooting video in '99. And that's the one where they said, the guy's got talent. His Tevian Fiddler on the Roof is very entertaining. And I took that as a huge win. That they loved it so much that they had to create a website to say how talented I am. And then went on to smear me. Nothing major, but everything about me was taken down years and years and years and years ago. But there is a reference to me on somebody else's page. It could have been Mike Render's page. I don't know. But I remember stumbling upon something several months ago that still had some material about me. All right. So let's look at the other end of this now. This is Frank Oliver from 1998. And this is another video from our friends over in Germany. Peter Reichelt shot this interview. I believe it was done in Clearwater, Florida. And it is a work cut. So you're going to see the time code on it. This is the best quality that there is. I cleaned it up as best I could, both video and audio. But he's got a lot of interesting things to say, and including specifically about, following Hana and Jerry Whitfield. So let's bring on, by the way, I like Frank Oliver. Frank was somebody that I got to know a bit when the LMT first opened. I remember seeing him at some of the Lisa McPherson protests, even before the LMT. There was one where he had a gobo. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. When for a lighting system, you can cut out little messages or designs. And he had a bright light that could flash. Remember Lisa McPherson on the side of the Fort Harrison Hotel. So they were driving around in a car with OSA chasing them as they, would stop at a light and put that up on the side of the Fort Harrison in big letters. So he did fun stuff like that. And I think he was involved also in paying for some anti-Scientology messages on the side of Clearwater buses that went out during one of the protest periods. And within a half an hour, Scientology had called the transit system and had all of those pulled off the street. So there was a hearing about that was the first time that I came down to Clearwater to shoot some video of that. I don't know how interesting that video is. I haven't looked at it in a long time, but it's something that I should go through and clean up, condense, and upscale to see if there's anything worthwhile there. It was interesting to see who they had from Scientology making the case there that this was evil. That was Paul Johnson of Johnson Pope, and he was the head of this top legal firm in Clearwater when Scientology came to town and hired them, the best and the most expensive, to defend them. And he was the one who you see in the 1982 Clearwater hearings at the end of the week's worth of testimony from all the folks like Paulette Cooper and L. Ron Hubbard Jr., Ron DeWolf, all these folks who came to explain exactly what Scientology is and what they did and how they affected their lives. Paul Johnson came in to say, this was all a bunch of hooey. We're not even going to put on a witness. This is just a witch hunt, for God's sakes. And we don't want to give it any respect at all. And he, he had a little rant and then stormed out of the room. So it was a great thrill for me when I came down here for the transit hearing to see him there. And then he actually had a chance to grill me when I was on the witness stand in one of the cases, probably against Bob. And I have fond memories of that because he had lost a few steps by the time that he was grilling me, and he retired not too long after that. But at one point they showed, I've told this story before, but it's worth telling again because I love it. They showed a piece of video of one of our trips in 99 when Bob and Stacy and I came down to Clearwater for the weekend. And we had Spencer and Croc, the two security guys, following us everywhere and saying the most horrific things to us. There was one moment where Spencer had said to Stacy Brooks, "Is it true you effed her husband at the time in the auditing room?" And Stacy said, "Say that on camera. Go ahead, repeat that. Say that on camera." And they went back and forth on that. And then as we were getting back in the cars, I went up to his camera and said, "Did you ever have anyone in an auditing room?" And they played that to the judge in the case and said, look at this man. He's cursing and saying things like this outside a church. This is reprehensible behavior, Your Honor. And I said, well, yeah, but you didn't show the part before that. And by the way, it's not outside a church. We were across the street from the submarine shop. And there's a little hotel right next to that across the street as well. We were in a parking lot. There was no services going on. There was no auditing going on anywhere close to that. So we did not disrupt any church activity. But I explained to the judge, well, I was responding to this that happened right before that. And the judge said to Johnson, is this an edited tape? Is there more that you're not showing me? Well, Your Honor. And he was very upset about that. So, I mean, it really it didn't accomplish anything, but it was fun to see him try. And I have a little footage of him talking with Tom Tobin, the then St. Pete Times reporter on the Scientology beat. Let's see. So let's get to I'm looking at comments again. We're talking about hate sites rather. And I saw this, that apparently there's one on Joy Vila. Have you watched any of Joy Vila's video? I watched the first 10 or 15 minutes of it when Tony put that up the other day about her having left Scientology. And I never had any respect for her just because of how wacky she was, you know, showing up at Mar-a-Lago with her flag dress and the nutty stuff that she was doing for Scientology. It's interesting to see her out and talking. I was a little more receptive to hearing what she has to say now. She didn't sound like an utter lunatic as she was talking. But I was not about to buy her book. I'm sure others will, and they may get something from it. But I wish her well. Let's see. So let's hear what Frank Oliver has to say here, shall we?
So what's your name? Where are you from? And what was your profession within Scientology?
My name's Frank Oliver. I'm from Miami, and I used to be the investigations officer for the Church of Scientology at their Miami office. I was involved in Scientology from 1986 until 1992.
50.
Yes.
Okay. Members since 1 million BC?
No, 95 million BC.
So
We'll do the intro again.
Okay.
It was fine.
It was fine, the intro, yeah?
Okay.
Oh, the intro was fine. That means you worked for OSA, for the Office of Special Affairs. What is the Office of Special Affairs?
Originally, when I started in Scientology, I worked in another area of Scientology. I was recruited for the Office of Special Affairs in 1989 after having assisted the Office of Special Affairs on certain projects. The Office of Special Affairs is set up in Scientology with two purposes in mind. One is the Office of Special Affairs to handle PR, and the other is investigation. One works hand in hand with the other. Where there are areas that the church believes are detrimental to society, for example, in the areas of psychiatry, in the areas of the IRS, abuse maybe, Scientology sets up their investigative machine to work and then uses the information that they garner from that with their PR machine that they have, which is what they go out and they try and publicize this information. Now, it's not for the purpose of the general good of the populace. It's very self-serving. They go after the IRS and its IRS abuses because the IRS opposed Scientology. They go after psychiatry because Hubbard, in essence, wanted to take over the mental health business when he started and founded Scientology way back when it was Dianetics. My goal as an investigations officer was to do the work asked of me in investigating people that were perceived enemies of the church.
For example?
An example would be the Cult Awareness Network.
What is a culto?
The Cult Awareness Network was an organization that was set up by the daughter of Leo Ryan, who was a congressman who went to Africa, where Jim Jones had his people's temple, and he was killed in the massacre and in the mass suicide. His daughter set up this organization to help, to be a clearinghouse of information and to help family members of individuals who were involved in dangerous cults. They were big in getting this information out to people. Scientology perceived the Cult Awareness Network as an enemy. So their goal was to destroy the Cult Awareness Network. The methods that they used to do that was they would have individuals like myself and other individuals in Scientology join the Cult Awareness Network, which I was a member of the Cult Awareness Network, to gather information about what they had on Scientology. They would attend the national functions. They would try and infiltrate the organization. They were involved in a massive campaign of lawsuits against the Cult Awareness Network because they actively wanted to join the Cult Awareness Network, and the Cult Awareness Network denied membership to members of Scientology. In 1991, I was sent to Los Angeles to assist in investigating the Cult Awareness Network to destroy it. I was flown to Los Angeles, where I stayed there for approximately 2.5 months, where as soon as I got there, we established a room at the base in Los Angeles, where the Office of Special Affairs domestic operation was.
Where is it?
It's on the second floor or the third floor, I don't recall right now, of the building on L. Ron Hubbard Way, and across the street from Masho. And there, basically, there was an entire unit set up. It had people handling PR, it had people handling investigation. We had the attorneys right down the hall. Kendrick Moxon was the attorney that was involved in this. And we had the high-level people from OSA Int directly involved in this. At the same time, there were other projects that were related to the CAN unit. For example, the surveillance of Hana and Jerry Whitfield, which I was involved in. Hana and Jerry Whitfield are former members of Scientology. Hana Whitfield at one time was the second person in charge of Scientology when Hubbard was still alive. She was on the original ship with Hubbard. She left the organization and has been speaking out against Scientology for many years. Her and Jerry have become exit counselors to help people recover from the experience of having been in cults and to help people leave cults once they're involved in them. Well, Scientology perceived them as enemies. Since they were enemies and they were involved in helping people leave Scientology, surveillance was set up to watch them because Scientology had gotten intelligence information that they were about to do a deprogramming of someone in England. Now, Scientology uses the term deprogramming, and it's a misnomer because if someone is being deprogrammed, obviously someone has programmed them. The surveillance was set up over a period of 3 to 4 days, where we watched them 24 hours a day with 3 teams of private investigators, as well as people like myself, just watching their house, following them in the car. We had copies of their phone records. We had copies of their credit report. We had information as to what their airline reservations were and where they were going. There was a full intelligence mission going on to find out who they were going to England to see. One of the people they were suspected of going to see was John Atack, who was a former member of Scientology and wrote a book critical of Scientology.
When you start to be a secret agent for Scientology, how does it work? They give you a book to read? Oh, we have to do it again. I think it's for you. Okay.
Okay, you were asking me about how they set it up.
How did they choose you? How did it start? You worked in Miami in a Scientology org, and well, where did it all?
I had been a staff member. I got on staff in '86 and left in probably early to mid '88 for personal reasons, financial reasons. I wanted to spend more time working to cover my own expenses, but I stayed a member of Scientology even after paying my freeloader debt off. I would still come in and do some services and pay off my freeloader debt. I was involved initially with the Office of Special Affairs doing some special projects. I designed some letterhead, for example, for the NCLE. I did different small things that they needed done. One day I was in the library and I was curious about, many things. And I went over to one of the computers. This is all before the internet. And I typed in the word Scientology in one of the periodical databases that they have that has all the articles from newspapers and magazines. And I started seeing articles about Scientology that were critical of Scientology. And I read every single one of them. And I made copies of every single one of them. And I put together a pack of information of all the critical information that was available. I mean, I put it together, bound everything. And I went into the Office of Special Affairs and I said, and I handed it to them. And they looked at it and went, my, you've been busy. And I said, I was in the library and I got curious about something and, you know, I put this thing together. I want to know what this is about. So they started pulling out DA packs, which are dead agent packs, which is basically information to counter all the information I had read. Affidavits and stories and reports and things that were supposed to dissolve all the things that I had read, at least in my mind. And so they spent several days, you know, giving me this information and me reading about, you know, the things that they were claiming that were true and the things that I had read were not true, and how the society and the suppressives were trying to keep Scientology from being, you know, well thought of and well liked and widely known. And I realized at that point I had a lot invested in Scientology regarding my time, the people that knew I was a Scientologist, and I had talked highly of Scientology. And here I was getting a glimpse of something that I knew wasn't right. And then there I decided that the only way I was ever going to know the truth was to know the truth. So because I had put together such a well-made pack of information without even being asked for it, I said, you know, I could gather up all the rest of the information that I find that's, you know, in theta, which is against the, in theta would be something derogatory about Scientology. I could gather up this information and report back to you what I find. And they liked that. They liked the fact that I could research and I could get things done and find out things, even though it was things that were critical about Scientology. And I told them, I said, isn't it strange that if someone just like me were to go into a library and do the same thing I did, that's all they would find? And they told me, well, we have a project that exists where we were trying to put all of L. Ron Hubbard's books in all the public libraries. I said, oh, that's great. And they said, at the same time, there are some books in the libraries that are critical of Scientology, and we need to get those books out of the library. And that was basically telling me to go in and steal the books that were critical of Scientology. And there was 2 books in the public library in Miami that were critical of Scientology, and they had me go in and steal those books. And it wasn't just done in Miami, it was done all over the country. Books critical of Scientology were stolen from libraries. I was asked to join OSA. And like I said, the only way I was going to find out if what I was being told was the truth is to get a little deeper in the organization. So I joined the Office of Special Affairs.
And they give you, how did it work? They give you...
Well, they're not real organized when it comes to investigations officers. At least they weren't at the time, because there's so few of us in the country at the time. There was maybe, I don't know, a dozen of us.
Investigation officer.
Yes, there wasn't a lot of investigations officer posted, because in every organization, they have an organizational chart.
In every city.
In every city, they have an organization, right? And in that particular department, there's a person at the top, which is the DSA.
The chief of the Secret Service.
Right, the Director of Special Affairs that handles Invest, and then there's Director of Special Affairs PR.
What's
Now,
the difference between Invest and PR?
Well, PR is the people that you see. All the good things of the church, that's what the PR person goes out and talks to the media and to the public and everything. The investigations person, you hardly ever see them. They're the ones in the shadows finding out the dirt on everyone and everything.
Journalists.
Critics, and bringing that to the PR so the PR can use it to make Scientology look good and to make them look, the other person look bad.
The APAC.
Right. So that's how it works.
So Kelly was asking, what's become of Frank Oliver? I'm just pausing a little bit here to respond to that. Frank is still around, I believe. I think that he's probably on Facebook. I haven't talked to him in a long time. There was a rift at the LMT where there was a woman who was a member of the board, Patricia Greenway, and she and Peter Alexander got $2.5 million from Bob to make this movie, The Prophet. and that turned out great. But Patricia spent a lot of time trying to run down Stacy Brooks, who was in charge of the LMT, and spent a lot of time trashing Stacy to everyone that we had in our orbit. Or if they contacted the LMT, Patricia would get a hold of them essentially and just smear Stacy, and it was just ridiculous. And so their friendship, they Bob and Stacy and Peter and Patricia were close friends before this movie, and then they had this great falling out. And Frank was a supporter of Peter and Patricia, whereas I was, supporter of Bob and Stacy. And when the film was screened, finally, I kept my mouth shut during the production of the film, except, to Bob and Stacy, letting them know, I read the script. The script sucks. This is not going to work. This money is going to be wasted with this script. Bob's feeling was, well, Mark, you have to go tell Peter what you think. So I did. I tried to gently say, I'm not sure that I understand the motivations here. Like, and try. I gave the suggestion that everything you need to know about Hubbard, you can learn from those. What are they called? The affirmations, where he in the 40s sat down and wrote all these things. But you are not weak. You are not a failure with women. You are a virile man who, but it was all pretty amazing stuff, and much more vivid than I'm painting it out to be. Anyway, I was trying to prod gently. I didn't say to Peter, man, this script totally sucks. I'm not sure I understand the character. So if the film sucks, then okay, blame it on me for not, grabbing him by the lapel and saying, you got to do a page 1 rewrite. But I stayed quiet, and then when the film premiered here, it played here in Clearwater, and there were lines around the block for it. And I went to see it opening night at this little theater. It was a little rundown second-run theater, not part of a chain, but it was one of those places early on where you could sit down and have a meal while you're watching a movie. And they were thrilled to have some film that would get a lot of publicity. And locally it did. Local TV stations, they played it up. And all of them said, this film stinks, but hey, it's there. So there were people lined up around the block, and I was there on the phone with Bob in the parking lot going, wow, there's lots of people turning up here. It's pretty amazing. And they accused me online of spying for him. like I was, doing something nefarious. No, saw the movie. I told them lots of people wanted to see the movie. And it played for like 3 weeks there. And even though it sucked, people still wanted to come see it because it was a film that was, poking fun at Scientology. Now, would that happen? Would that happen at every single city it played in? No, but in Clearwater, there was a hungry market for it. When I started, I think like one of the first things I did once it premiered is I put my honest review up on Alt Religion Scientology, and Frank was very upset about that and called and was ripping me a new one for that. And I tried to just explain, listen, these are the flaws I think are in the film, and I'm just being honest about it. There were a whole bunch of things that that just didn't make sense if you stop to think about it for a minute. And I used as an example a film that was in the theaters right then, AI, the Steven Spielberg film about the little robot boy who is adopted by a family, and at a certain point, if the family wants to have a bond, they can, read a little code or something, and then the boy will just love and adore you, and that will be an unbreakable bond, which of course happens in the film. And one of the things that really struck me as odd in the film is that the androids were made to be completely realistic, completely human. They were supposed to be, a part of your life that no one would know that this is an android that you've adopted. But the one thing that they couldn't do was sit down and have a meal with you, because as the kid tries at one point in the film, he eats something and it gets garbled up in the machinery inside his android body, and oh my God, this may be the end of him. It's like, okay, I guess that sounds interesting or plausible, but really, if you're making this boy that is realistic in every single detail, from the moisture in his eyes to whatever, you wouldn't find a way to have food pass through him so he can sit down with you at a table and eat a meal with you, which you do 3 times a day. The little boy sitting there not eating a thing as the family's having a meal. It just doesn't make sense. So we had some disagreements about the movie The Prophet, and I really haven't talked to him much since then. But I always appreciated everything that he did, and I like him. But that's the last time I can remember talking to him. I enjoyed that conversation, though. All right. The prophet is visionary, years before its time. That time being the tribulations. So let me check with this. Kelly, you're saying Joy Vila is going to be on with Natalie tomorrow? Be interested to see that. 49ers fan for life says she's a hardcore Christian, and I don't connect with that at all. But to destroy a cult, we need to come together and not divide over differences. If we do, we are no better. And I know better that that's supposed to be no better. And as Kelly says, I cannot let a typo go. And yes, you fixed it. I have no difference with her 49ers. I'm usually one of the first people to throw my support around anyone coming out. Very, very rarely do I not. And yeah, it's a matter of, what else, what's she going to say and how is she going to say it? Is she going to be a kook, as she has been for many years now? I hope that she has plenty of good things to say. Somebody pointed out to me today that one of the guests one of the shows that I had guested on was that the Janine Turner show, and she just started a new podcast today with Rob Morrow, who was Fleischman, her love interest on Northern Exposure. So they just started a podcast today that I subscribe to on YouTube, where they're going to sit down and talk about each individual episodes of the show. So that means that you have to start, because I haven't seen it in so long, you have to start from episode 1, watch it, and then listen to the podcast to fully enjoy it. But I'm happy to see that they're doing that. And again, I do not always agree with Janine Turner on political beliefs or anything of that nature, but she's Maggie, and I love her. I can't help myself. All right. So more of Frank. How about that? Shall we have some more of Frank? Here we go.
Works. They work with each other. In some cities, the DSA works by themselves because they may not have staff members underneath them, so they actually have to do the job of the invest officer. In my organization, they had an invest officer, so they had someone posted, but it was very few of us throughout the country that existed, and there wasn't really a hat pack put together for us until I got to Los Angeles.
What is a hat pack?
A hat pack is it's basically your instruction manual to become an investigations officer that has all the issues that you're supposed to read, all the policy letters.
It's like a study book.
It's a study book, right? How to be a
Scientology.
exactly, and then you sign off when you complete a certain part. They have a smaller course like that. That's in the Volunteer Minister's Handbook of Scientology. They have a mini course called the Investigations Pack, and that's a little course that you do, a little check sheet you do, which teaches you different techniques for investigation.
Who wrote that book?
L. Ron Hubbard.
Personally.
Yes. All the policy letters used by people in the Office of Special Affairs, everything was written by L. Ron Hubbard. All the OSA network orders, OSA being the Office of Special Affairs, which oversees that division in the small organization.
The headquarters for the Secret Service.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
OSA.
Yeah, so when I got to Los Angeles, they at that time had just finished putting together the brand new revised Investigations Officer Pack, and I received the first one they made.
Study pack.
Oh, yeah.
How to be an invest officer.
Correct.
And so you got the book?
I was given that pack as well as a bunch of things that you're supposed to read with it. And I was supposed to work on this study course at the same time. I was working 12 hours a day for Scientology when I was in Los Angeles. And I was supposed to study at the same time. But when you're working in OSA, you're doing what you're doing. You're not studying. You're not doing your course. You're investigating. You're doing whatever needs to get done. If you have to be on a surveillance, you're on a surveillance. I mean, I lost 4 days of my life sitting in a car watching somebody's front door. I even sat through an earthquake.
It means every job you got, you have to do.
Oh, yeah.
It was order, and you have to do it.
Yes.
And when you got an order, are there other Secret Service people from Scientology also doing it the same?
No. Everybody's, unless you're working in conjunction with another investigation officer on something, they give you individual projects to do. One of the things that the investigations officer did was, for example, when they needed something done that they wanted one of their private investigators to do, they would give it to the investigations officer to run the PI. Well, basically what that is they give you a list of things that they want the private investigator to do. They give you also in that same program the things that you're supposed to do and the things that you're supposed to get someone else to do. And on that is their entire program written out, and you have to do those steps and sign when you've completed them. One of them is put together the information that, for example, when we're briefing a PI to do a thing on someone, we bring the PI in. Well, before that, you have to
The PI is the
private investigator, right? Before that, they have to write the program, and then they obtain the funding for the program, and then they bring in the PI, and in the meanwhile, I'm supposed to be getting all the background information to brief the private investigator to say, okay, here's the information that we're providing you. This is what we want you to get done. You tell him all the pertinent information that he needs in order to accomplish the task at hand. For example, they would say, okay, they want to get all this information on, let's say, Jerry Whitfield. Okay, and they'd brief the private investigator and say, okay, this guy Jerry Whitfield used to be a Scientologist, and he's involved in deprogrammings, and he's holding people against their will, and he's taking money for it from their parents. They would just make it this, they would make this big thing, and a lot of times the information they're giving the PI isn't necessarily true. But the PI is going to do his job based on what they tell him, because that's all he has to base his job on. And remember, he's a private investigator. He doesn't answer to, he has to answer to law enforcement if he violates a law, but his job is to do what the church wants him to do, because they're the ones that are basically paying him. Now, in Scientology, and in this country, a private investigator would work for, let's say, the church attorneys, and they would naturally supposed to report to the church attorneys. However, in the Office of Special Affairs, the people that tell the private investigator what to do is the Office of Special Affairs, OSA. The attorneys know what's going on, but they're not the ones issuing the orders. OSA is issuing the orders.
And why are they doing in such a complicated way? Why is not OSA giving the orders direct to the PI?
OSA is giving the orders directly
No,
to PIs,
but
but they're not supposed to. Oh yeah, they're paying them directly as well. But it goes through the attorney's accounts
Why that? For what reason?
because that's the law.
In the United States.
Yeah, the PIs are supposed to take their orders from the attorneys. They're supposed to get paid by the attorneys.
And what would happen if this would go direct? It would be against the law?
Well, they're not. Well, you can hire a private investigator, but for the church to hire a private investigator on their own without going through their attorneys would be a violation of their 501 act to get tax-exempt status. Because what are they using their tax-deductible contributions for?
For private investigators. The church is using money for private investigators.
Exactly. So how they make
The
it
rest are critics.
exactly. So the only way they can make it work is they would use their attorneys, because the attorneys could say, "Oh, this person is it's a threat to the church. So in defense of the church, they hire a private investigator, and it's being handled by the attorneys." You see, that's an area where if, for example, someone were in a Catholic church and they slipped and fell down and, there's going to be a lawsuit, well, the church's attorneys would, investigate maybe if that person falls down in front of a McDonald's last week and a Wendy's the week before. But that would be an expense of the church to investigate a claim against them. Okay, that person may be committing fraud on that church. Fine. Scientology spends $30 million. $30 million on attorneys.
In what time wage?
A year.
For a year.
Yeah. Well, that's what they spent last year, I'm told.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of contributions by people that made donations to the church. That's what that is. Because that's where the money comes from.
That means so-called church donations.
Go to PIs. Go to private.
Investigators.
Go to attorneys.
And to look for critics. And
Oh, yes.
to keep them or make them quiet.
Right. Now, when we followed the Whitfields, this is back in '91, we didn't harass them like I see them doing now. Now I see PIs harassing people. I mean, we were watching. I mean, we chased them around a little bit, but we weren't picketing their neighborhood or, giving out flyers. None of this stuff that, I hear goes on now. I wasn't involved in anything. I couldn't have been involved in anything like that. I would have left right then and there if they would have asked me, "We want you to picket somebody." I'd be like, "Picket? I'm going to picket somebody. You told me these people were evil. You told me these people were hurting somebody. You told me these people were holding people against their will. You told me they're ex-members and they are speaking out critically of the church. That's what you told me. I'm basing my actions on what you've told me. You have lied to me. You have put me at risk. You have made me do things that I would normally have never done." So the church uses that.
How is the Office of Special Affairs, the Secret Service of Scientology, organized from the top up, going down? And who are the top officials of the Secret Service?
Your top guy is Mike Rinder. He's the executive director of the Office of Special Affairs.
He's in charge for all spy projects, for all...
He knows everything that's going on. And above him is David Miscavige.
The direct command.
Everything goes from him to him directly.
And under him, under Miscavige?
Under Miscavige, he has his own little army. He has
Could work.
the entire, yes, he has Kurt Weill. He has the entire echelon of upper management of RTC. He has the Watchdog Committee. He has the INT management. He has the Flag Command Bureau. He has the individual orgs. He has Scientology Missions International. He has ABLE. He has WISE. He has, it's an entire pyramid that they have of different things that are supposed to be dissociated, but it's all under the same thing.
And how would be the way if, for example, we have critics in Germany and who are against Scientology and giving interviews to newspapers, to TV stations in Germany? How would be the way it works?
Well, what they would do is they would start investigating those people. They would find out all the information they could get on the person through legal means. They would find out, through the voting records, through their tax rolls that may become public information. I don't know what information is made public about private individuals in Germany. They would follow the person to their home. They would see where they frequent, where their children go to school, where the person works, where the person might have a hobby. Basically they want to find out everything they can about the person. They would investigate their credit if they could. They would talk to their neighbors about the person, but they start on a campaign, at least now, the things that they're doing, they would go and try and character assassinate someone. For example, they would go, let's say, to your neighbors, and they would say, what do you know about, we're here to talk about Peter Reichelt. We'd like to ask you some questions. We understand, that Mr. Reichelt's involved with child pornography. And your neighbors would be like, child pornography? Well, I don't know. I've known Peter for many years, and he walks his dog, and he has children, and I don't know anything. The only children I ever see there are his children, and I don't know what you're talking about, But that plants a seed of doubt in the minds of the neighbors. So now the next day you walk out the door, and your neighbor looks at you a little weird because somebody was there asking about child pornography, which has nothing to do with you, but it's something that they use. They will start fabricating what is or isn't. They haven't accused you of being a child pornographer. They're there investigating the possibility that you may be involved in, It's a little game they play.
Like going to their company,
Oh, yeah.
spreading rumors,
Oh, absolutely.
letters,
Mm-hmm.
saying blah blah blah, all these criminal facts.
Absolutely.
Done.
Yeah, he may be involved in that. Well, he may be a space alien too. I don't know that for sure either. But the fact that they would do that to someone that speaks out critically of the church, that in itself, what other church has ever hired private investigators to go after people that have spoken critically of it?
I don't know.
There are people in this country that believe in abortion. There are people in this country that don't believe in abortion. And these are very strong factions that work against each other. Now, the Catholic Church does not believe in abortion, but it isn't hiring private investigators to investigate the people that do believe in abortion. And that makes sense to me.
Is OSA a criminal organization or criminal part of?
I think that criminal activity does happen within the Office of Special Affairs. Absolutely.
I think so, yeah.
Absolutely.
Like things, for example, death threats or even orders to kill critics.
I have heard that from people that were in the Office of Special Affairs.
So this happened.
I have heard from people that were in the Office of Special Affairs that have told me that they were ordered to cause permanent harm to another individual.
You've heard that.
I've heard that, yes, from the person who was told to do it.
And who?
I didn't.
And who gave the orders for that thing?
I believe it was given to them from the top OSA management.
And this is.
It would probably have to be Mike Grinder. I was never given such an order. I would have left long before that.
For that. And when did you recognize the criminal force?
As soon as I got to Los Angeles and saw how OSA worked.
How it worked?
Well, when I was in a room and they were telling me to set up this, section of the organization to destroy CAN, and they brought in all these file cabinets with all this information about the directors of CAN and former members and lists that they got a hold of, and the addresses and phone number of everyone that had been contacted, that CAN had contacted, and people that had been wanting to leave the church and had gone to CAN. We had all that information. Anyone that CAN had referred to someone to help them get out of Scientology, we had all that information. And they had me investigating every single one of the board of directors of CAN, the people that had been board of directors of CAN, the people that were involved in the American Family Foundation. It was just this massive campaign of finding out everything you could about these people to try and discredit them.
And what happened after that? After you...
They took me in a room and they sat me down, and they had so many projects going on at the time that my main purpose for being there was to be in the CAN unit, but they would pull me out of that room and put me on other related projects to, move them along a little bit. I remember sitting in a room and having to go through a printout of someone's phone bill and find out who all the phone numbers belong to. I don't know how I got a copy of someone's private phone bill. It was put in front of me and they said, find out who these numbers belong to. So I had to...
Who gave you these orders? Any name?
It was probably someone in at OSA East US, maybe Tony Sharon-Banis. That was a lady that was one of my seniors. David Butterworth. It could have been Roger. It could have been Joe Neal. It could have been Ben Shaw, who's now running security here at the Flag Land Base. At least they bring him in when things are hot.
And for example, there are only very few people who ever left OSA and spoke publicly about it,
Yes.
about the work. I only know from you, and the other man is Gary Scarf.
Mhm.
How reliable are the things what Gary Scarf was saying? Because they met so many the apex. Scientology is destroying his reputation. Yeah, they're trying everything to destroy his reputation worldwide. That even no journalist and OTV station is now or likes to speak with him because they destroyed him nearly.
Well, I can't speak for Gary Scarf, and I can't tell you what of the things that he's told me are true or false. Because unless it was something that I was directly involved in, I would be out of place to say that. But it would not be out of place for me to say that I am not in any way shocked by anything he's told me that they've asked him to do. The criminal nature of Scientology and the things that they have said in the past and the things they've done in the past would indicate to me that the things that Gary has brought to my attention, the things that he's told me, are most likely true. I don't see of any reason why he would tell me differently. He gains nothing by telling me something that wouldn't be true, and I gain nothing by repeating something that wouldn't be true.
But from the whole history, from the whole story, you would say it is correct. This could be happened like that.
Yes, absolutely.
He worked for OSA. He like you.
He definitely knows Mike Rinder from things that I've heard and things that I've seen. He definitely knows Mike Rinder. And I do have a vague recollection of having seen Gary at some time when I was in Los Angeles. Now, he has the same recollection of me. We did not work on the same project, but Scientology has a way of compartmentalizing different things so that people don't have the full picture. They want you to have a piece of the puzzle and have every single section of that little piece, but they're not going to let one person know everything that's going on. It goes higher up. They are the ones that know what's going on in all the different areas.
And how important is OSA for Scientology, for David Miscavige?
Oh, OSA is his, that's his number one thing right now. That's what he has to have in place. If not, Scientology would have been gone long ago.
So OSA keeps Scientology alive.
Absolutely. It was before the Guardian's office. But
And if OSA is finished in any way, Scientology will.
absolutely, but it would happen at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that one could survive without the other.
And how many people are working for the Secret Service?
I would estimate,
Why?
just from my own knowledge and from things that I've heard and read, there may be 1,000 individuals that work for us
Worldwide.
worldwide.
Mhm. And how many people are within that organization within Scientology, from your knowledge?
How many people are in OSA
Yeah.
or in Scientology worldwide?
Worldwide.
Worldwide, just from the things,
Zero.
just things that I've read and things that I've seen, I don't see more than 100,000 people involved in this. It's not as big as they claim it is. They claim 8 million members. I don't believe that for a minute. If they had 8 million members, things wouldn't be the condition that they're in all over the country. The statistics would be down in all their organizations. They wouldn't have the big problems that they're having if they had 8 million members.
What does the oppressive person declare?
A suppressive person declare is an expulsion from the church.
And who's doing that? For what reason?
They expel people from the church for committing acts against the church, what they deem are crimes against the church.
You've got one?
Oh, absolutely. I was expelled for secretly making plans to leave the church.
And
Ooh.
what consequences has this for you?
No, and I wanted to leave anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So a couple of quick points. Talking about Gary Scarf, I did find the full show from a local TV station where Jerry was on with Cynthia Kisser from Cannes, talking about the fact that Gary, was a survivor of Jonestown, which he was not. This was a story that was made up for him to become involved with Cannes and to become an insider, so that OSA would know exactly what and who and how everything was being handled there at the Cult Awareness Network. It's in horrible shape. I'm trying to clean it up as best I can. I'm certainly not going to make it look great. I'll see if I can clean up the audio a bit, and then I will play that sometime fairly soon. The other thing that was brought up by Frank, what other religions use PIs this way? And he brought up the Catholic Church. Well, one thing that we actually were kind of surprised to see, and this was as the LMT had closed its doors at the end of 2001, there was a resurgence again of the Catholic molestation fury. And it seemed like, okay, this was all exposed 10 years earlier, but then suddenly again, more stories came out, and it was like we weren't aware of this before. But one thing that we did find out from the Boston Herald, who was really covering that whole scandal, is that the Catholic Church did hire PIs to investigate folks who were making charges against the priests. So we were kind of stunned to see that. Bob and Stacy and I was living up by Bob's house and continuing to work with them at that point. I remember how dumbfounded we all were to see them using Scientology's tactics. Well, I appreciate you sticking around for all of that. Lots of interesting stuff going on. You folks have been talking about like Joy Vila going on tomorrow with Natalie. I look forward to seeing that. I hope she gets grilled and spills a lot of beans. And somebody said, "Don't talk politics." And yeah, it's a good piece of advice in any situation like this. We want to hear your inside story of life in Scientology. What did you see? What did you experience? And that's the important thing. So Jim just got here and is wondering, what's this about? Well, we were just looking back at some video. You can roll the show back and you'll see Hana Whitfield talking about what it was like to have OSA follow her, and then you'll see Frank Oliver. You're going to see Frank talking about the fact that he was in OSA, and they were asking him to do all of that stuff. Let's see. Tony says, "Thanks, Mark. You are welcome. Thank you for coming by. I think you could probably tell that I have been very tired, so I am going to call it a night. And I will see if I've got something tomorrow, but I may try to do a live stream from Brooks Gibbs' event tomorrow night. I got to say, the one time I tried doing the live stream of comments that Mike Menino was giving on the sale of Garden Street, that did not go well. So I'll see if I can get that working, and perhaps we'll have some footage from there tomorrow. If not live, I'll probably shoot a little bit of footage there and share it with you. All right. I really appreciate everyone spending time here. And, as Kelly advises, like, subscribe, ring that bell, go buy a t-shirt. You got to have a mug, make life complete by having a Bunky and Magoo mug. That's the type of hard sale that she gives. And I try not to do that, but you got Kelly, she's she's just going overboard. Okay, just calm down. That's what I keep telling her. Stop pushing the stuff. Of course they want to have a Bunkinetics t-shirt. Of course they want that. They'll get it. Don't worry. Anyway, Moose on the Loose, nice having you here. Have a good night, he says, and to you as well. I need a bunky mug in my life. There you go, Elk of Antioch. You know where to get them because Kelly's pushing that link right there. Look at that. It's exactly what I'm telling. She's hitting you over the head with it, for God's sakes. So I wouldn't be surprised if everybody has a Bunky and Magoo mug tomorrow just because of the hard sell that Kelly is doing. Anyway, thanks for coming in and hanging out, and I will see you again soon. This is Bunky saying good night. Bye.
What are your crimes, Mark? Yes, what are your crimes, Mark? Your crimes are hidden, they should be seen. Spin all out, Mark, and just come clean.